All right, this is a brief demonstration of how a knight moves and how a king moves, which this demonstration should make clear why I have evaluated or assessed the fighting attacking power of the king at 2.6 and the knight also its attacking power at maximum strength at 2.6. So the king on e4 can move along the ranks or the files one step, but as a rook moves, and then it can also move one step along the diagonal from wherever it's sitting on e4, which is a light colored square. It can go along the light colored diagonals. So the king can cover all the squares that neighbor it. So that it has a certain attacking and fighting value because of that. That's 8 squares out of 64 that it can cover. And it's moving one step at a time. So it has fighting value. It can help in checkmate the other king. It can help in chasing down other pieces and stopping pawns. Now we're going to look at, so it may, and remember it goes to each square one step at a time, however, but it can get directly to where it's going relatively quickly, in comparison to this knight that's on e4. A knight that's on e4 can travel also to 8 squares from e4. And I'm going to put a pawn on each of the squares, and I'm going to show you how. Now the king, remember, it traveled one step at a time. The knight, and the king is worth 2.6. It can hit 8 different squares from where it stands on the empty board. The knight, it's best to imagine a knight moving not like an L with 1, 2, 3 steps. The knight only makes 2 steps. It combines the movement of the rook and the movement of the bishop. The knight travels along its first step. In my mind, this is where I evaluated, and I believe this is probably how the creators of the knight, and this is probably how they came up with it, because it makes more sense this way. It moves along the ranks in the files one step, and then it moves diagonally one step. So along the rank of file and then diagonally to that square. Okay, so from e4 it could move to c3. It could go along this rank, the 4th rank, one step, and then it makes a diagonal step, and so it moves 2 steps along the rank and then diagonally along the file and then diagonally along the file and then a diagonal move. The knight, the reason why I saved the diagonal move for the second move, in order of strength, the bishop, the rook is stronger than the bishop, just slightly, and and also because the rook cannot capture diagonally. It's the only piece that cannot capture diagonally. The knight, like the bishop, like the pawn, like the queen, can attack diagonally, and this diagonal move is the attacking move. And so you have to keep it straight in your mind when you're playing with it, because it's a staggered step. Now the knight cannot move directly. To get from e4 to g2 requires some maneuvering. It requires a bit of maneuvering to get that done. He could go from e4 to g3. That'd be the fastest way, but it could do it to g3 to h5 to f4 to g2. And it could it be done faster than those 4 moves? 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think it could be done faster than those 4 moves. to get to G2. So that's 4 moves when the king can go 1, 2, it could just make 2 steps and be there. So even though the knight is very powerful in that it can jump over, it comes in handy that it can jump over pieces. But in all actuality, it's the clumsiest piece on the board. It's far clumsier than the king, and it just takes too much time for it to travel from one sector of the board to the other effectively, and to move around in this one sector of the board to get to certain squares. It just takes too many steps. If this knight wanted to get to here from E4 to E1, it just takes too many steps. You know, it takes too many steps to do it. It's just very difficult to do. So it is by far the weakest attacking piece. But it can, you know, nevertheless, it can hit those 8 squares. And so therein, it finds its value. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It can hit 8 squares at a maximum. So 8 times 0.33 is 2.6. That's where you get your value from. Now, as I pointed out in my YouTube video, that covers the knight, the value of the knight and the value of the bishop and all the different pieces. This is a visual of it. This bishop from E4 can hit 13 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 squares from a center square on the empty board. It can hit 13 squares at a max. From a corner, it can only hit 7. Remember, the knight from the center could only hit 8 maximum, but from a corner, it can only hit 2. So it can really be reduced to, to think that these two are comparable in strength is just flawed thinking. It's very flawed thinking. I mean, mobility in chess pieces is where you define the strength. This queen, like the king, can go to all of its neighboring squares, which is 8, but the queen can travel the entire file, the entire rank, and along the diagonals. The queen can touch 27 squares. That's why this queen is so powerful, because it can travel to so many different squares from one spot. And even from its weakest point, it can still hit 14 squares. Excuse me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It can hit 21 squares from its weakest point, from a corner square. Now, the rook can hit 14 squares from anywhere on the board. So it's clearly stronger than the bishop because of that, because it can hit 14 squares, and it can do it from any square on the empty board. Wherever you put it, it can hit 14 squares, no matter where it is. It doesn't get reduced like the bishop gets reduced. But at a maximum, it can hit 14. Drawback of this rook is, in the openings, it's almost useless. It has to sit back and wait for files to become open. Exchanges must be made, before it can really be, effective. But as the game goes on, the board clears up. If you still have your rooks, they become more powerful because now they can start hitting more and more squares. But the downfall is the biggest downfall is that it cannot capture along the diagonals. So it can't work with a pawn the way a bishop can. So that's just a quick tutorial on it. Keeping in mind how that knight moves. The knight moves 2 steps each time it moves. It doesn't make 3 steps. It moves twice. Along the diagonal, along the rank and files, and then the diagonal. So you go along the rank, and then diagonal. Rank, then diagonal. This is how it moves. It makes 2 steps. The king makes 1 step at a time to all the neighboring squares. So the king can hit these squares in here. And the king can hit all of these squares, including these, but all 8 squares. But the knight can only hit the 8 squares outside of the king's circle. So it's a nice little geometry going on there, but this is the clumsiest piece. It's only worth 2.6 because of the 8 squares it can hit. 8 times 0.33 is 2.6. 14 times, which the rook can make, times 33.33 is 4.6. 13, which the bishop can hit, times 0.33 is 4.3. So this is how you get into queen. 27 times 0.33 equals 9 times 27 times 0.33 is 9. That's why this is worth 9 points. So, you know, just a quick demonstration. Kind of awkward setup. Just wanted to get it on, get it on video, and hopefully people can learn this formula and understand it just can't be refuted. And even though people, many chess players have learned how to use a knight very effectively, it doesn't mean it's more powerful than it is. It's only as powerful as it is. You are, the better you are, the more you can get out of it. But all great chess players know that the bishop is stronger than the knight, and to exchange a bishop for a knight is a sacrifice exchange. You're sacrificing in exchange, and you need to be getting some compensation from it, doubling up pawns or increasing the attack or the possibility of attack. Something has to be happening. It can't just be an exchange. All right, just wanted to cover that. Bad bishop.